Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me, tmosso@thewatchbox.com. It is in the description below. It is your purchase and pricing email question line for buying this or any watch you see on any of our platforms. Please reach out to me directly. Email tmosso@thewatchbox.com for pricing. Today we're discussing a watch launched in 2002 based on the previous panograph. This is the Glashütte Original Panograph, a flyback chronograph in stainless steel, 39 millimeters in diameter, 13.3 millimeters thick, and from lug tip to lug tip, the watch measures a lovely 45.4 millimeters, so it's easy to wear on a smaller wrist, and it has a 19 millimeter spacing between the lugs. On my wrist, which is 16 centimeters in circumference, the watch sits nicely. It's fairly narrow across the wrist, and you can see that well, so I recommend it for a wrist as small as 13.5 centimeters circumference. Because of the short lug-to-lug, it's suitable for women as well as for men. Over the top, you can see that the lugs are not over the edge of my wrist, but the best angle is down the barrel, where you can really see how far inboard the lugs are. This angle always exaggerates the width of the watch across the wrist. Plus, since I need to pull tight to keep it secure, it compresses my wrist a little bit, so go by this measurement. You can see the cuff shot indicating that the watch should slide underneath most sleeves. The strap is high grade, matte finish, large rectangular scale alligator leather, black. There's a little bit of bolstering to give it volume. The edge is a folded edge rather than sheer cut. We have a monotone stitch, black calfskin on the bottom, no crimping, no gouging. This is a brand new Glashütte Original factory strap. The buckle with a combination of satin and polish, and the same can be said of the watch itself. Polished lug hoods, polished bezel, or at least the outermost flange of the bezel is polished. Polished case back, but satin finished mid case with a very soft crease between the lugs and the case band. This isn't the dramatic outward step of something like a longa, but nor is it the integrated profile of a Portuguese or a Calatrava. The bezel has a little vertical edge and then a conical profile that's polished, and then a flange in satin finish that is adjacent to the sapphire. We have vintage-inspired polished ovoid chronograph pushers. We have a Glashütte Original branded crown, and it is a push-down crown, and the watch is 30 meters water-resistant. Take a look at this little kerf underneath. There's a cutout so you can more easily stick your nail in and remove that crown for setting of the watch. Okay, the dial, silver opaline with a few exceptions. The tracks for the hours and minutes, as well as the seconds, are a brushed concentric pattern. You can see the same surfacing on the minute markers of the chronograph scale. And the chronograph is a tri-spoke. We'll talk about that in a moment. So it is an opaline or matte finish that glows softly. We have applied individual hour indices. We have blackened alpha-style hands. The watch is a flyback, and it's an oddball invert chronograph. So you could see how I actually fly back using the trigger at the top, and start-stop is the trigger down at the bottom. Okay, how does this minute system work? Well, there's a tri-spoke. Each spoke has a different length. Each spoke traces its own arc from 0 to 10, 10 to 20, 20 to 30. So each spoke is visible for 10 minutes. That's how you read the minutes. It's supposed to be a more intuitive system, whereas a lot of traditional chronographs feature tiny registers that are problematic for eyes that might be fading or eyes which are not optimum. This is a lot easier to read. You can quite easily tell whether you're in the first, second, or third row of 10 minutes. Now, it is a flyback, so if you want to fly back, you can do so. Reset and restart without first stopping the watch. Excellent if you're timing something that happens in rapid succession, like two cars crossing a racetrack, or you need to reset for another lap. Now, if you pull the crown, the watch does feature hacking or stop seconds. I'm just going to make sure we're not in the date change danger zone there. We were, so it's a good thing I rolled through it. The watch does feature a quick set system for the date, and that's an important thing because not every Glashütte Original watch with the panorama datum has a quick set. Some of them have pusher adjusters that you need to work with the tool. This has a traditional rolling quick set built into the crown. And you can see how the discs themselves are flush, which is a real feather in the cap of designers of this sort of date display. A lot of times they're not flush. This is beautifully done, but the movement is the highlight. Originally developed for the panograph, this is the caliber 61. You're looking at the caliber 6101 manual wind, 42-hour power reserve, 28,800 vibrations per hour. It all pivots on 41 joules. It is adjusted in a chronometer style 5 positions. And we have a combination of a lateral clutch and a column wheel, with the column wheel action being truly glorious. You feel it, you hear it. It's among the best I've experienced. I would even say it's better than the caliber L951 in a dotograph. We do have a couple of nods to tradition here: a freehand engraved balance cock, a black polished swan's neck fine adjustment mechanism, fire blued screws, black polishing on the tops of the crenellated towers of the column wheel, the columns, as well as the screw within. We have satination on the chronograph levers and yoke. You could see black polish on the chronograph clutch spring right there, satination on the wheels, engine turning on the base plate, stripes across the bridges, and then a high grade of narrow but beautifully mirrored beveling on the steel chronograph parts and the brass bridges. Take a look at the base plate and you can see all the way down the engine turning continues. No two of these balance cocks will be exactly alike because the engraving is freehand. You can see they've used a sort of banknote scrolling, or volutes we could call it. The Glashütte Original nameplate is black polished with blued screws, and you can see that they're golden chaton fixed by screws holding some of the pivot jewels, a nod to the way pocket watches were made in East Germany during the heyday of the company that preceded Glashütte Original. And it is important to note that this company traces its lineage back to F.A. Lange in 1845. The modern Lange und Söhne is a recreation brand. The legal lineage of the original Lange belongs to this company. Reach out to Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com for purchase and pricing details.